The night air was crisp and cold, the kind of cold that settles into your bones and refuses to let go. In the heart of the city, under the pale glow of the streetlights, a young girl stood, her breath visible in the frosty air. She was no older than 10, wearing a beige coat that was too big for her, a knitted scarf wrapped around her neck, and a woolen hat that sat snugly atop her braids. Her small hands trembled slightly as she clutched the edge of the bench. She had stopped in her tracks when she noticed the man slumped over, his face pale, his body hunched in exhaustion, as though the weight of the world had settled on his shoulders. The man, dressed in an expensive suit, appeared utterly lost, as though the night had swallowed him whole. His eyes were closed, his head resting against the back of the bench, as though he were too tired to even care. The city around them was alive, bustling with energy, but here, in this small corner of the park, time seemed to have slowed, leaving only the girl and the man, bound by an unspoken connection. She hesitated for a moment, staring at him. Her mind raced. Was he just asleep? Or was something more wrong? Her voice, soft but determined, broke the silence. "Sir, are you okay?" she whispered. Her words were barely audible over the wind, but they seemed to echo in the stillness of the night. The man did not move, not at first. But then, as if her voice had reached him, his eyes fluttered open, and he blinked in confusion. He looked up at her, his expression one of surprise, mixed with something else, maybe gratitude, maybe something deeper, something unspoken. He cleared his throat, slowly sitting up, the weight of the moment pressing in on him. I'm fine," he murmured, though his voice lacked conviction. The girl, not convinced, took a cautious step closer. "You don't look fine," she said gently, her brow furrowing with concern. The man shifted uncomfortably on the bench, adjusting his tie, as if trying to regain control of the situation. The world around him seemed distant, a blur of lights and noise. But here, with this small girl standing in front of him, he felt something shift, something he hadn't felt in a long time. Something human. "Thank you," he finally said, his voice a little stronger. The girl smiled, her eyes filled with compassion. She didn't move, though. She stayed there, waiting, as though she knew something he didn't. And as the wind swirled around them, the city continuing to hum in the background, something unspoken passed between them. It was a quiet moment, yet somehow, it felt like the start of something much bigger, something that neither of them could have predicted. The man, now fully awake, rubbed his temples and looked around, clearly disoriented. The girl remained standing in front of him, her face still filled with concern, her small hands clenched around the strap of her worn backpack. She had the same quiet determination in her eyes as before, the kind of determination that made the man pause, realizing that something about her presence felt different, real. His mind raced as he tried to process everything. He had been caught off guard, but now, sitting upright on the bench, he couldn't help but notice the contrast between his life and hers. He was a man of power, someone used to control in the comfort of his well-maintained world. But this little girl, she seemed to navigate life with an unshakable confidence that he couldn't quite grasp. "Are you lost?" she asked, her voice soft but insistent. Her words broke through his thoughts, and he looked up at her. He wasn't sure what had brought him here, this place, this moment. He wasn't sure what had led him to be sitting in this park, in the middle of the night, exhausted, disconnected. The truth was, he was far from lost, but he had never felt more lost in his life. He shook his head slowly. "No, I'm not lost," he said, but his voice didn't carry the certainty he had hoped for. The girl looked at him, her expression unreadable. She seemed to study him for a moment before speaking again. "You don't look okay," she said, tilting her head. "You look tired." Her bluntness was refreshing in a way that made him feel both self-conscious and strangely comforted. He chuckled softly, more out of habit than anything else. "I guess you could say I'm tired," he said. "Tired of everything." The girl frowned but didn't say anything at first. She stood there, her little body barely visible against the backdrop of the park, the snow swirling softly around her. She seemed to be thinking, as though carefully considering her next words. Then, with an almost imperceptible nod, she spoke again. "You know, sometimes people feel better when they talk about things. My mom says talking can make you feel lighter." The man blinked, caught off guard by her insight. He wasn't sure what it was, perhaps the sincerity in her voice, or the fact that she wasn't judging him, but something about her made him want to talk. "Maybe," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "Maybe I need someone to talk to." He paused for a moment, unsure of where to begin. There was so much he wanted to say, but the words didn't seem to come. He had spent years building walls around himself, walls that had kept everything at bay: his work, his emotions, the reality of his life. He had thought he could manage it all alone. But now, with this girl standing in front of him, he was starting to wonder if maybe he had been wrong. The girl didn't rush him. She simply waited, her eyes steady, patient, and understanding. After a long moment, the man let out a long sigh. "I've been running my company for years," he began, his voice still quiet. "I've made a lot of money, built a reputation, but lately, I feel like it's all slipping away. The stress, the pressure, it's too much. I don't know what I'm doing anymore." He stopped, looking down at his hands. He felt vulnerable in a way that was unfamiliar to him, and it unsettled him. The girl said nothing at first, but she stepped closer, her little boots crunching the snow as she moved. "It's okay," she said quietly, her voice soft but reassuring. "You're not alone. Not now. Not here." The man looked at her, surprised by the kindness in her words. For a moment, he couldn't help but feel a flicker of something he hadn't felt in years. It was hope, maybe, or just the reminder that even in the darkest moments, there could still be light. "Thank you," he said, his voice thick with emotion. You've really helped me tonight." The girl smiled, her eyes bright. "I didn't do anything special. I just listened." The man laughed softly, the sound filled with both sadness and relief. "Sometimes that's all it takes," he said. "Sometimes all you need is someone to listen." The girl nodded, her smile widening. She didn't say anything more, but the message was clear. It didn't matter how powerful or rich you were, everyone needed someone to talk to help them through the tough moments. As they sat there together, the snow continued to fall gently around them, the city lights twinkling in the distance. The man realized that, perhaps, this was exactly what he needed: someone who could remind him of what truly mattered. In that moment, the world felt just a little bit lighter. The night wore on, and the city continued to hum in the distance, a soft rhythm that seemed to echo in the quiet park. The man and the girl remained there on the bench, the snow slowly falling around them like a blanket, softening the world's harsh edges. The man, for the first time in what felt like forever, allowed himself to relax, his stiff shoulders loosening. The weight of the world that had been pressing on him seemed a little lighter now. He had spoken, opened up, and although it felt vulnerable, it also felt like a necessary release. The girl, still standing in front of him, seemed content to let him sit in the silence. She didn't rush him, didn't push him to say more. She simply waited. After a while, the man cleared his throat, breaking the stillness. "You know, I don't think anyone's ever really listened to me like this," he said, his voice quieter now, softer. The girl looked at him, her eyes bright, but not with pity, just with understanding. "Sometimes people get so caught up in their own lives," she said slowly, "they forget that it helps to stop and listen to others." The man nodded, feeling the truth of her words sink in. He had spent so many years running from one thing to the next, focused only on the next deal, the next problem, the next success. He had never taken the time to really listen, to hear what others had to say, to understand the emotions behind the words. It was a simple truth, but one that had eluded him for far too long. The girl seemed to sense his thoughts, her small voice breaking through his reverie. "You're a good person, I can tell," she said. The man blinked, startled by her words. "You think so?" he asked, his voice full of surprise. The girl nodded earnestly. "I know so. You helped me. You listened to me. That means you're good." For a moment, the man didn't know how to respond. Here was this child, standing in front of him, offering a kind of validation that he hadn't received in years. It was as though she saw him not for the suit he wore, not for the wealth or status he had built, but for the person he was beneath all of that. "Thank you," he whispered, more to himself than to her. "You've helped me more than you know." The girl smiled, her eyes filled with something that resembled hope, and perhaps belief. "I just did what I could, but I think you're going to be okay." The man smiled, a soft and genuine smile. something he hadn't allowed himself in a long time. He felt something stir inside him, something he hadn't felt in years. Hope. As the snow continued to fall around them, the girl spoke again. "I have to go now," she said. Her tone was calm, yet there was a quiet finality in it. The man looked at her, feeling a pang of sadness at the thought of her leaving. "Where will you go?" he asked, his voice soft. The girl turned to face him fully, her small hand gripping the strap of her bag. "I have to go home. My mom will be waiting." The man nodded, understanding. He didn't know why, but the thought of her walking back to whatever life awaited her made him feel a deep sense of responsibility. He couldn't let her go like this, not after everything she had done for him, not after what they had shared. "Wait," he said, standing up quickly. He walked to his car, parked a little ways down the street, and returned with something in his hand, a small card. "Take this," he said, offering it to her. "If you ever need anything, anything at all, just call me. I can help." The girl looked at the card for a moment before taking it from his hand. She didn't say anything right away, but there was a flicker of something in her eyes, something like trust. "Thank you," she said softly. She turned to walk away, her small figure disappearing into the falling snow, and for the first time in a long while, the man felt a sense of peace. He watched her go, a feeling of warmth spreading through him. As she disappeared into the distance, he realized that in this unexpected encounter, he had found something more valuable than money, more meaningful than any achievement, human connection, empathy, and a reminder that, no matter how lost we might feel, there is always hope. The next day, as the sun rose over the city, the man sat at his desk, a new sense of clarity settling over him. He had a meeting scheduled later in the morning, but for the first time in a long time, he didn't feel the usual pressure. He felt ready, not because of anything he had accomplished, but because he had remembered what it meant to listen, to care, and to truly see others. He picked up his phone and dialed the number on the card, his heart lighter than it had been in years. The next morning, the man awoke with a sense of clarity that had been missing from his life for years. The weight that had seemed so heavy, so constant, was now just a distant memory. He couldn't explain exactly why, but the events of last night had left an impression on him, a mark of sorts, that had made him reconsider everything he had been focused on. He glanced at the business card that the girl had taken from him the night before. He wondered what her life was like, what kind of struggles she faced. He had always been so wrapped up in his own world, his own troubles, that he never stopped to think about what others were going through. But now, he couldn't stop thinking about her. He stood up, walked over to his desk, and picked up his phone. He stared at the card for a moment longer before he dialed the number. The phone rang twice before a voice answered on the other end. "Hello?" It was her voice. He felt his heart skip a beat. "Hello," he said, trying to steady his voice. "Is this the girl I met last night?" There was a brief pause on the other end, and then a small chuckle. "Yeah, this is Anna. Who is this?" she asked, her voice light, as though the whole world was still wide open in front of her. "It's the man from the park," he replied. "I wanted to make sure you were okay. I gave you my card, and I was just wondering if you needed anything. I mean, really anything. I meant what I said last night." Anna was quiet for a moment, and he could almost hear her thinking. "I'm fine," she said finally, "but thanks for checking in. I just wanted to say that you helped me too, you know? You listened to me." The man was taken aback by her words. "I didn't really do anything," he said, a little confused. "You did all the talking." She laughed again, this time with a sense of ease. "You listened. That's the hard part." The man didn't know how to respond to that. He was used to being the one who fixed things, the one who had all the answers. But in this moment, he realized that maybe he didn't have to fix everything. Maybe the real help was in listening, in simply being there. "I want to help," he said after a pause. "I really do. I don't know what you need, but if you ever want to talk, or if you need something, I'm here." Anna's voice softened. "I know. Thank you." There was another long pause, and then she spoke again. "I actually do need something." His heart skipped a beat. "What is it?" he asked, his mind racing with possibilities. "Can you help my mom?" Anna asked quietly. "She's sick, and we don't have much. I just want to make sure she's okay." The man felt a lump form in his throat. He hadn't expected that. "Of course," he said, his voice steady. "I'll help. What does she need?" Anna gave him her mother's address, and they talked briefly about the situation. She didn't say much, but the way she spoke so quietly, so carefully told him all he needed to know. This little girl, barely old enough to take care of herself, was carrying the weight of the world on her shoulders. And yet, she was the one who had helped him find clarity, helped him find his way again. He had never felt more moved, more determined to do something good. As soon as the call ended, the man set out. He called his assistant and arranged for a delivery of medicine, food, and everything Anna's mother might need. He made sure that the delivery was made immediately, and that the family would have enough to get by for the next few weeks. He couldn't believe how quickly everything had changed. Just last night, he had been a man lost in his own world, but now, with just a single conversation, he had made a decision to be better, to make a real difference. When he arrived at the address Anna had given him, he was surprised to find a modest home, tucked away on a quiet street, far from the bustling world he was used to. The front door opened, and Anna appeared, her face lighting up when she saw the boxes of supplies. "You really did it," she said, her voice filled with wonder. The man smiled, feeling a warmth in his chest he hadn't felt in years. "Of course I did," he said gently. "I said I would." Anna stepped aside, allowing him to enter. The man took a deep breath before walking inside. It was a simple home, but it was filled with warmth, the kind of warmth that only comes from love, even in the hardest of times. He saw Anna's mother sitting on a couch, a blanket draped over her shoulders, looking pale but thankful. She looked up at him, surprised but not unfazed. "Thank you," she said quietly, her voice weak but sincere. "You didn't have to do this." The man nodded, his voice soft. "I wanted to. Anna told me you needed help, and I couldn't just ignore that." As he spoke, he noticed the way Anna watched him, her eyes filled with gratitude. She had put her trust in him, and he wasn't going to let her down. He knew now, more than ever, that the real value in life wasn't in the things you could accumulate, but in the way you could help others, in the way you could listen, and in the way you could make a difference, no matter how small. As he stood there, surrounded by the warmth of a family in need, he realized that this was the start of something new for him. He had found a sense of purpose, something that he had been missing for far too long. The days passed, and the man found himself coming back to Anna's house more frequently. Each visit, he brought more supplies, more food, and slowly, he began to get to know Anna's mother. Her name was Clara, and though she was still weak from her illness, there was a quiet strength in her that reminded him of his own mother. It had been years since he had felt a real connection with anyone outside of his work. But here, with this family, things were different. He didn't know how to explain it, but he felt a sense of peace every time he was there. It was simple, yet it felt like he was doing something that mattered. One afternoon, as the sun began to dip below the horizon, the man sat with Anna and Clara in their small living room. The television played quietly in the background, but the sound of it was drowned out by the soft hum of the room. Anna sat at the table, working on a school assignment, while Clara rested on the couch, a blanket draped over her. The man glanced over at Anna, who seemed so focused on her work, her pencil moving swiftly across the paper. He smiled to himself. She was smart, determined, and far beyond her years. He couldn't help but wonder what her life might be like if things had been different. "You know," he said softly, breaking the silence, "I've been thinking about what you said to me the other night, about listening." Anna looked up from her work, her eyes meeting his. "What do you mean?" she asked, a hint of curiosity in her voice. "Well," he began, shifting in his seat, "you told me that sometimes people forget that listening is important, that it's not just about talking. I think I've been one of those people." He paused, choosing his words carefully. "I've spent so much of my life focused on my career, on making money, on solving problems, that I forgot to just listen, to really listen." Anna's expression softened, and she nodded slowly. "It's okay," she said quietly. "A lot of people forget. They get caught up in their own stuff." The man felt a warmth spread through him as he looked at her. "You're right," he said, his voice filled with sincerity. "But I don't want to forget anymore. I want to be someone who listens, Who really hears people, you know? Anna smiled, her eyes bright with understanding. I think that's a good idea, she said simply. Clara, who had been listening quietly, looked over at the man. It's never too late, she said, her voice soft but steady. You've already made a difference by being here. The man felt a lump form in his throat at her words. He hadn't expected to hear that, especially not from Clara, who had been through so much. He had come into their lives to help, but he realized now that it was they who had been helping him all along. Thank you, he said quietly, looking at both of them. I don't know where I would be without you two. Clara smiled faintly, though there was a trace of sadness in her eyes. We're just getting by, she said softly. But you're part of our family now. You don't have to thank us. The man nodded, his heart swelling with gratitude. It wasn't just the help he had given them that mattered. It was the bond that had formed between them. Over the next few weeks, things began to change. Clara's health improved steadily, and Anna's schoolwork flourished. The man continued to visit, bringing food and supplies, but more importantly, he began to spend more time with them. He started to help Anna with her homework, learning that she was incredibly bright, and together, they worked on projects that made her smile. One evening, as they were finishing up their work, Anna turned to him with a question. Do you ever get lonely? She asked, her voice soft but direct. The man blinked, caught off guard by the question. He had never really thought about it before. I guess I do sometimes, he said slowly. But I've never really been one to show it. I've always been busy with work, with everything I had to do. Anna nodded, as though she understood. I get lonely too, she said softly. But then I remember that there are people who care about me, and that makes me feel better. The man looked at her, his heart heavy with emotion. You're right, he said quietly. It's the people who care about you that make all the difference. In that moment, he realized that Anna had taught him something he couldn't have learned anywhere else. She had taught him that it wasn't the big things in life that mattered the most. It was the simple acts of kindness, the listening, the understanding that truly made a difference. The next day, the man made a decision. He called his assistant and asked them to arrange a donation to a local charity that helped children like Anna. He wanted to do more. He wanted to make a real impact, to help children in need, to help families who were struggling. He didn't know exactly what the future held, but for the first time in a long time, he was excited about it. That night, as he sat with Anna and Clara, the man realized that his life had changed in ways he couldn't have anticipated. It wasn't about the money anymore. It wasn't about the fame or the status. It was about the people he met, the connections he made, and the difference he could make in the world by listening, by caring, and by simply being there. Weeks passed, and life began to feel different. The man, once a figure of distant authority and corporate success, found himself immersed in a world he had neglected for so long. The visits to Anna's house had become routine, each one filled with conversations and small moments that, for the first time, made him feel connected to something real. He had started volunteering at local charities and even began to mentor young people at the community center, sharing his business knowledge with those who needed it most. He felt as though, in helping others, he was finally starting to heal. One evening, as the winter winds howled outside, he sat with Anna and Clara in their modest living room, the warmth from the fire crackling in the background. They were all sitting together, enjoying a simple dinner of soup and bread, a far cry from the extravagant meals he used to have at high-end restaurants. He looked at Anna, who was engrossed in her book, and smiled. I have something for you, he said, his voice soft, yet full of anticipation. Anna looked up, her eyes wide with curiosity. What is it? She asked, clearly intrigued. The man reached into his bag and pulled out a small wrapped box. He handed it to her, watching her face light up with a mixture of surprise and excitement. Anna carefully unwrapped the gift, revealing a new set of art supplies, colored pencils, sketchbooks, and paint. Anna gasped. Wow, thank you. I've always wanted these, she said, her voice filled with pure joy. Clara looked over at the man, her expression filled with gratitude. You didn't have to do that, she said softly, but there was no mistaking the emotion in her voice. The man smiled, his heart swelling with warmth. I wanted to, he said simply. You've all shown me what really matters. You've taught me more than I could ever have imagined." Anna hugged him tightly, her small arms wrapping around him in a gesture of gratitude. It wasn't just the gift that mattered. It was the bond they had formed, the shared moments that had brought them all closer together. The man realized then that the wealth he had once pursued so obsessively was nothing compared to the richness of human connection, the depth of care, and the joy of seeing someone else grow and succeed. As the weeks turned into months, Clara's health continued to improve. Anna, with the support of the man, began to excel in her studies, showing a natural talent for art that impressed even her teachers. The man took pride in knowing he had played a small part in helping her reach her potential. He found himself spending more time with them, not out of obligation, but because he genuinely enjoyed being in their company. He would take Anna to the park to sketch, or sit with Clara as they watched the sunset, talking about life, love, and everything in between. It was a far cry from the lonely, high-stress life he had once led. One evening, as the three of them sat on the porch, the man looked out at the horizon, lost in thought. He could hear Anna and Clara talking behind him, their voices warm and easy, and for the first time in a long time, he felt a sense of peace. A peace that came not from wealth or status, but from the love and connection he had found in the most unexpected of places. Clara turned to him and smiled. "You know, you've really changed," she said, her voice gentle. "I remember when we first met. You were so different, distant, always focused on work. But now you're here, with us. You've become part of our family." The man looked at her, his heart full. "I didn't realize what I was missing," he said quietly. "But I do now, and I'm grateful for it." Anna, who had been listening quietly, spoke up. "You're like family to me too," she said with a grin. "You've made everything better." The man chuckled, his eyes glistening. "And you, Anna, have made my life better. You've taught me so much about what really matters." As the night drew on, the three of them sat together, watching the stars twinkle above. The man realized that, in a world that often felt cold and disconnected, he had found warmth and meaning in the most unexpected of places. He had found it in a little girl who had opened his eyes to the power of listening, in a mother who had reminded him of the importance of family, and in the bond they had all created together. In the weeks and months that followed, the man continued to volunteer, mentor, and invest in the lives of others. But his greatest joy came from the simple moments spent with Anna and Clara. They had become his family. And he had found a new purpose in life, one that was rooted not in wealth or success, but in love, connection, and the joy of helping others. As the seasons changed, the man knew that he had finally found the peace he had been searching for all along. As the months passed, life seemed to settle into a rhythm that felt natural, though not without its challenges. The man, who had once been consumed by the pressures of work and success, now found himself looking forward to each visit to Anna and Clara's home. It wasn't just the physical help he provided that mattered. It was the time he spent with them. He had learned that time, not money, was the greatest gift he could offer. On a cool spring afternoon, the man arrived at Anna's house with a new stack of books in his hands. Anna had recently developed a deep love for reading, something that warmed his heart. When he knocked on the door, Clara answered, her smile a little wider than usual. "It's so good to see you," she said warmly, stepping aside to let him in. The man smiled back, his eyes scanning the cozy living room that had come to feel like a second home. Anna was sitting at the table, her head buried in a book, but she looked up as soon as she heard his footsteps. "Hey," she exclaimed, grinning. "Did you bring me more books?" The man chuckled, placing the books on the table in front of her. "I thought you might like these," he said, his voice filled with affection. "You've been reading so much lately, I figured I'd add to your collection." Anna's eyes lit up as she eagerly flipped through the pages of the books. "These are perfect," she said, her excitement palpable. Clara looked on, her heart swelling with gratitude. "Thank you so much," she said softly. "You've really been a blessing to us." The man nodded, but there was a humbleness in his response. "I've just been doing what feels right," he said. "You've all shown me how important it is to slow down and really appreciate life." Clara's expression softened. "You've given us more than just help. You've given us something we couldn't have gotten anywhere else, hope. When you first came into our lives, we didn't know what to expect. But now I can't imagine things any other way." The man felt a lump form in his throat at her words. He had come into their lives to offer help, but somewhere along the way, they had helped him more than he could have ever imagined. He had found a sense of purpose that went far beyond his wealth or business. He had found connection, something he had been searching for without even realizing it. Later that evening, the man sat with Anna and Clara on the porch, the warm breeze of early spring brushing against their skin. The world outside seemed so full of possibilities now. He turned to Anna, who was scribbling in her sketchbook, a habit she had picked up since receiving the art supplies he had given her. "What are you working on?" he asked, his voice filled with genuine curiosity. Anna looked up from her sketchbook, her face bright with enthusiasm. "It's a picture of you," she said. "I want to draw you and Clara, to remember how much you've helped us." The man was taken aback by her words. He had never been the subject of anyone's art, let alone from someone as talented as Anna. "I'm flattered," he said, a smile tugging at his lips. Anna shrugged, her face serious. "You deserve to be remembered," she said simply. "You've made a difference." Her words hit him harder than he expected. He had spent so much of his life focused on achieving success, on building a legacy, but now he realized that the true legacy he could leave behind was the impact he had on others, how he had helped those around him, how he had made their lives better. He had become a part of their story, and they had become a part of his. As the sun set and the evening grew darker, the man's thoughts turned inward. He had come to understand that the true richness of life wasn't in what he had built, but in the people he had met along the way. He had learned that relationships, compassion, and the ability to listen were far more important than any business deal or financial success. The next day, the man made a decision. He called his assistant and arranged for a donation to Anna's school, ensuring that she and other children like her would have access to the resources they needed to thrive. He didn't want Anna to just survive. He wanted her to have every opportunity to succeed, to achieve her dreams. That afternoon, he visited Anna and Clara's home once more, this time with more than just books. He had arranged for scholarships for Anna's education, and even secured a small grant to help Clara with her medical expenses. As he handed Clara the paperwork, he could see the tears welling up in her eyes. "You didn't have to do this," she said, her voice breaking with emotion. "You've already done so much." The man shook his head, his heart full. "I know I didn't have to," he said softly, "but I wanted to. You've given me a sense of purpose, and I want to give something back, something that will last." Anna, who had been quietly observing, walked up to him and hugged him tightly. "Thank you," she whispered. "Thank you for everything." The man smiled, a tear slipping down his cheek. "It's my pleasure," he said, his voice filled with emotion. "You've both shown me what really matters." As he left their home that evening, the man felt a deep sense of peace. He knew that his life had been forever changed. And as he walked into the night, the promise of a new chapter ahead, he realized that the true treasures of life were the connections we make, the love we share, and the impact we have on others. And in this family, he had found all of those things he would never trade for anything in the world. The days that followed were filled with a new sense of purpose. The man had never felt more alive, more connected to the world around him. As he continued to visit Anna and Clara, he found himself becoming a regular part of their lives. He helped Anna with her art, talked with Clara about her progress in recovery, and listened, truly listened to their hopes, their dreams, and their struggles. One afternoon, the man arrived at their home with more than just his usual visit. He had arranged for a small event to take place, a dinner at their house to celebrate the progress Clara had made in her recovery. He had invited a few friends, people he had come to trust, to join them in their joy. The table was set with simple but delicious food, and the atmosphere was warm, full of laughter and conversation. Anna and Clara were both excited. And as they prepared the meal, the man could not help but reflect on how far they had all come. He had watched Anna grow in so many ways, her art, her confidence, her understanding of the world around her. Clara, too, had shown incredible resilience. She had faced so much, yet she continued to fight for herself and her family. He felt a deep sense of pride in them both, even though it was not his place to claim such things. As the evening wore on, the conversation turned to dreams, what they wanted for the future, what they hoped for. The man found himself sitting back, simply listening. Clara spoke of wanting to return to work once she was fully recovered, of wanting to give Anna the best opportunities she could. Anna, on the other hand, spoke of her dreams of becoming an artist, of traveling the world, and of sharing her work with others. The man was struck by how much promise these two had, how much potential there was in them, and how they had given him the gift of seeing the world through different eyes. They had shown him that success wasn't just about what you could achieve for yourself, but about how you could lift others up, how you could make a difference in their lives. As the night ended and the guests began to leave, the man sat with Clara and Anna, the three of them in a quiet moment of reflection. "You've both taught me so much," the man said softly, his voice full of gratitude. "I came here thinking I was helping you, but in reality, you've helped me more than I could have imagined." Clara smiled, her eyes filled with warmth. "You've been a blessing to us," she said quietly. "You've given us more than just your help. You've given us hope, and that means more than anything." Anna, who had been sitting quietly, looked up at him with a smile. "I think you're a part of our family now," she said. The man felt a lump in his throat. For so long, he had been isolated, focused only on his work, on his own ambitions. But here, in this moment, he realized that what mattered most was the love and support you gave to those around you. It was the connections you built, the relationships you nurtured. And in this small family, he had found more than he had ever hoped for. As the weeks went by, the man continued to visit regularly, continuing his support of Anna's education and Clara's recovery. They had become a part of his life in a way he had never imagined, and he was committed to helping them succeed in every way he could. But more than that, he was committed to making sure they knew they were never alone again. He had found something in them that he hadn't realized. He had been searching for a sense of belonging, of purpose, and of true connection. As the seasons changed, the man continued to be a steady presence in Anna and Clara's lives. He helped Anna with her art, encouraged her to chase her dreams, and supported Clara as she returned to work. He was there for every milestone, every small victory, and he took great pride in their accomplishments. And as the years passed, the bond between them grew even stronger. It wasn't just about the things he had done for them, or the help he had provided. It was about the way they had come to trust each other, the way they had become a family. In Anna, Clara, and himself, the man had found something far more valuable than any business deal or financial success. He had found love, connection, and the realization that the true measure of a person's wealth wasn't in the money they earned, but in the lives they touched and the difference they made in the world. And as he looked back on his journey, he realized that the best decision he had ever made was the one that had brought him to this family. They had changed his life in ways he could never have imagined, and for that, he would be forever grateful. Months passed, and the changes in the lives of Anna, Clara, and the man were becoming more profound with each passing day. What had begun as an act of kindness, a simple decision to listen and help, had evolved into a lasting bond that neither party could have predicted. The man had become more than just a benefactor. He had become a friend, a mentor, and even, in many ways, a family member. The trust and affection shared between them had deepened, and the connection felt as though it had always been meant to be. One afternoon, as the sun began to set over the city, the man sat with Anna and Clara on their porch. The light from the setting sun bathed the small house in a warm glow, the quiet hum of the neighborhood in the background. The air was crisp, the beginning of fall settling in, and the feeling of change was palpable. Anna had grown so much since he first met her. Her art had blossomed, and her dream of becoming a recognized artist seemed more attainable than ever. She had recently been accepted into a prestigious art program, a huge step for her, and the man was filled with pride at how far she had come. Clara, too, was doing well. Her health had improved dramatically, and she was back at work, helping others in her own way. It had been a long road, but Clara's strength and resilience had carried her through the toughest of times. As they sat together, the man looked at both of them, feeling a wave of gratitude wash over him. They had changed his life in ways he couldn't have imagined when he first met them. They had reminded him of the importance of family, of connection, and of living with intention. "I've been thinking a lot lately," the man said, breaking the comfortable silence between them. Clara turned to him, a curious smile on her face. "What about?" she asked, her voice warm and inviting. "About everything," the man replied. "About how much you both have taught me. About how much I've learned just from being around you." Anna looked up from her sketchbook, her eyes softening as she listened. "We've taught you?" she asked, her voice thoughtful. "I thought you were the one teaching us." The man smiled, the truth of her words settling in. "I thought I was too," he said. "But the truth is, you both have shown me what really matters. You've taught me how to live with purpose, how to listen, and how to be present in the moment." Clara reached out and placed a hand on his, her touch gentle but firm. "You've taught us just as much," she said quietly. "You've given us hope when we had none, and you've helped us find our strength again. You've made us believe that we deserve a future." The man felt a lump form in his throat, the weight of their words hitting him harder than he expected. "I never thought I could make such a difference in someone's life," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "But being here with you has shown me that it's the small things that matter, the time spent together, the support we give one another, and the love we share." Anna nodded, her eyes shining with a mixture of gratitude and understanding. "You've made our lives better," she said simply, "and I know I can do more now, because of you." Her words were simple, but they held so much weight. She was right, she was capable of so much. And now, with the support of the man and her family, her future seemed limitless. The man smiled, his heart swelling with pride. "You're going to do amazing things, Anna. I have no doubt about that." Clara squeezed his hand, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. "We're so lucky to have you in our lives," she said. "You've shown us what it means to truly care for someone, and because of you, we can finally start dreaming again." The man felt a sense of peace settle over him as he looked at the two of them. They had given him more than he could ever repay, and yet they didn't expect anything in return. They had shown him that the real treasure in life wasn't in wealth, success, or accolades. It was in the connections we make, the love we share, and the way we lift others up. As the night began to fall and the stars appeared in the sky, the man realized that this was what he had been searching for all along: a family, a sense of belonging, and the understanding that, in helping others, we often find our true purpose. He had come to Anna and Clara's home looking to give, but in the end, they had given him something far more valuable: a new perspective on life, on what truly matters, and on the kind of person he wanted to be. The next day, as the man walked through the streets of the city, he felt a deep sense of fulfillment. He had seen the world in a new light, and he knew that the work he had done, the time he had spent with Anna and Clara, had changed him in ways he could never have anticipated. He wasn't the same man who had walked into their lives all those months ago. He had become something more, someone who knew that the true value of life wasn't in what you had, but in what you gave. He had learned that in helping others, we ultimately help ourselves. And as he walked on, the future seemed brighter than it ever had before. The days turned into weeks, and the seasons slowly began to shift. The man's life had transformed in ways he never could have imagined when he first crossed paths with Anna and Clara. His world, once full of deadlines and business deals, now felt richer in ways he had never understood. He found himself thinking less about the things he had, and more about the people who mattered to him. As autumn arrived, Anna's art had blossomed. Her portfolio was growing, and she had begun to display her work at local art shows. Clara, who had been hesitant at first, was now fully engaged in her job again, and her confidence had returned. They had both come so far, and the man was in awe of their strength. One evening, as the leaves turned golden and the air became crisp, the man received a call from Anna. "Hey," she said, her voice full of excitement. "I have something I want to show you. Can you come by?" The man smiled, hearing the enthusiasm in her voice. "Of course, I'll be right there." When he arrived at their home, he found Anna standing in front of a large canvas, a look of pure pride on her face. "What do you think?" she asked, gesturing toward the painting. The man stepped closer, his breath catching in his throat. It was a portrait of Clara, but it wasn't just a simple painting. It captured her strength, her warmth, and her resilience in a way that felt almost alive. The colors were vibrant, full of life, and the strokes of the brush seemed to pulse with energy. "It's beautiful," he said softly, his voice thick with emotion. "You've really captured her." Anna smiled, her eyes gleaming with pride. I wanted to do something special. She's been through so much, and I wanted to show her how much she means to me." Clara, who had been standing by the door, walked over and placed a hand on Anna's shoulder. "You've done more than that," she said, her voice filled with emotion. "This is a gift that I will treasure forever." The man watched the two of them, the bond between mother and daughter so evident. It was moments like these quiet exchanges of love and understanding, that truly showed him what mattered most in life. Later that evening, as they sat together, the man reflected on how much Anna had grown. She was no longer the shy, uncertain girl he had met all those months ago. She had found her voice through her art, and her confidence had blossomed along with it. Clara, too, had found a new sense of strength. She had fought through illness and fear, and now she was standing tall, proud of the life she had rebuilt. The man realized that, in a way, he had been a part of their transformation, but more importantly, they had been a part of his. He had come to them thinking he was the one who would provide answers, but in truth, they had taught him more about living than any business deal ever had. As he sat at their kitchen table, a cup of coffee in his hands, he looked at Clara and Anna. "You both have taught me so much," he said, his voice steady, but filled with emotion. "You've shown me that life isn't about what you can achieve alone. It's about the people you care about, the relationships you build, and the way you help one another grow." Clara smiled, her eyes filled with warmth. "We're all in this together," she said softly. "You've become a part of our family. You've helped us more than you'll ever know." The man's chest tightened at her words. It was something he had never expected to hear. He had spent so many years building walls around himself, thinking that he had to do everything alone. But now, with Anna and Clara, he realized that he had found something much more valuable than all the success in the world. He had found love, connection, and a sense of belonging. As the evening drew to a close, the man found himself reflecting on the path that had led him here. It hadn't been an easy road. He had faced personal struggles, doubts, and fears, but in the end, he had found something far more meaningful than any of the things he had once chased. He had found the people who would always be there for him, the people who had changed his life for the better. And as he walked home that night, the stars above twinkling in the clear sky, he realized that he no longer needed to search for meaning in his work or his achievements. The meaning was right there, in the relationships he had built and the love he had shared. He had found a new purpose, one that would guide him for the rest of his life. The following days were filled with new opportunities. The man continued to support Anna's art, even arranging for her to take part in a citywide exhibition. He helped Clara as she expanded her work in the community, mentoring others and giving back in ways that were truly fulfilling. The connections they had built over the months had created something powerful, something that would last. And as he watched Anna's art displayed for the first time in a professional setting, the man felt a sense of pride and peace wash over him. He had become a part of their journey, and they had become a part of his. They were a family now, in every sense of the word. And as he stood beside them, watching Anna's work celebrated by others, he knew that this was just the beginning of a new chapter in their lives, one filled with love, growth, and the unshakable belief that together they could achieve anything. As time went on, the lives of Anna, Clara, and the man continued to evolve, growing in ways none of them could have anticipated. The bond they had built over the months had only strengthened, and with each passing day, they realized more and more how deeply their lives were intertwined. Anna had become a local sensation with her art, and her work was being recognized by people beyond their small community. Her paintings, full of vibrant colors and deep emotion, captured the attention of art lovers, critics, and even galleries. It was a dream come true, and the man, who had been there for every step of her journey, felt an overwhelming sense of pride. Clara, too, was flourishing. She had taken on more work in the community, helping others who were struggling, just as she once had. Her healing, both physical and emotional, was a testament to her strength, and she had become a beacon of hope for others who were facing their own battles. The man watched them both with admiration, but as much as he was proud of their accomplishments, he couldn't help but feel a deep sense of gratitude for how they had changed his own life. He had come into their lives thinking he was offering them something: help, support, resources, but what he had received in return was far more valuable than anything he could have imagined. The relationships they had built, the lessons they had taught him, and the love they shared were the true treasures. One day, as the fall days turned to winter, the man received an unexpected invitation from a local charity that had been following Anna's progress. They had been so moved by her story and the way she had overcome so many obstacles that they wanted to honor her at an upcoming event. They invited her to showcase her art and speak about her journey. Anna was hesitant at first, unsure of her place among such influential people, but the man encouraged her, reminding her that her story was just as important as anyone else's. "You deserve this," he told her. "Your art is a reflection of your strength, your resilience, and your heart. Don't doubt yourself." With his encouragement, Anna agreed to attend. The night of the event, the man stood by her side, watching as she walked into the venue with a mixture of nervousness and excitement. It was a beautiful, upscale event, filled with well-dressed individuals, some of whom were famous in the art world. Anna had never been in a room like this before, but as she stood next to her paintings, speaking to the people who admired her work, she looked more confident than she had ever been. The man felt a surge of pride as he watched her, and for a moment, he saw not the girl who had once struggled to find her voice, but a true artist, standing tall in the spotlight she had earned. As the night continued, the man couldn't help but reflect on the journey that had brought them here. He thought back to the days when he first met Anna and Clara, when they were living in difficult circumstances, just trying to make it through each day. He remembered how alone they had seemed, how uncertain their future had been. But now, as he watched Anna speak with such grace and confidence, he realized that their lives had been completely transformed. Anna had not only overcome her personal struggles but had thrived, using her art to share her story with the world. Clara, too, had found a new sense of purpose. She was no longer just surviving. She was living fully, helping others, and finding joy in the small moments. And as for the man, he had learned that success was not measured by money or status, but by the lives you touch, the people you help, and the love you give. That night, as Anna finished speaking and the applause filled the room, she turned to the man with a smile that said everything. She had done it. She had stepped into the life she had dreamed of, and she had done it with the support of the people who loved her. The man reached out and placed a hand on her shoulder. "You did it," he said, his voice filled with emotion. "I'm so proud of you." Anna smiled up at him, her eyes sparkling with gratitude. "I couldn't have done it without you," she said softly. Clara, who had been standing nearby, joined them, her eyes brimming with tears. "We're so lucky to have you in our lives," she said, her voice trembling with emotion. "You've given us more than we could ever repay." The man felt his heart swell as he looked at them both. This, he realized, was what life was truly about. It wasn't about the accolades or the recognition. It was about the connections you made and the people you helped along the way. As the event came to a close, the man stood in the back of the room, watching Anna and Clara, knowing that this moment was just the beginning for them. They had all come so far, and he couldn't wait to see what the future held for them. And as the night ended, and they left the venue, the man knew that he had found something priceless, a family, a sense of belonging, and a purpose that went beyond anything he had ever imagined. As the seasons continued to change, so did the lives of Anna, Clara, and the man. The success of Anna's art exhibition marked a new chapter in her life, but she had only just begun to chase her dreams. The opportunities that were now opening up for her were beyond anything she had imagined just a year ago. The man, who had watched her grow from a shy girl into a confident artist, felt a deep sense of pride every time he saw her paint. It was clear that she was on the path to something extraordinary. Clara's health had continued to improve steadily, and she had returned to work in a role that allowed her to help others who were struggling, just as she once had. Her work gave her a sense of fulfillment that she had been missing for so long. She was no longer just the woman who had been sick, but the woman who had reclaimed her strength and was now a source of inspiration for others. One evening, after a long day of work, the man received a message from Anna asking him to come over. She had something important to share. Curious, he made his way to their home. When he arrived, Anna was waiting for him with a bright smile on her face. "I have something to show you," she said, excitement in her eyes. The man raised an eyebrow, intrigued. "What is it?" he asked, stepping inside. Anna led him to the living room, where she had set up a new piece of art on the wall. It was a portrait of Clara, but it was unlike anything she had done before. It was a large painting, filled with rich, warm colors that seemed to tell the story of Clara's journey from the darkness of her illness to the strength and resilience she had found. The painting was powerful, almost alive, and it captured Clara's essence in a way that words never could. The man was speechless. "It's beautiful, Anna," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "You've really captured her. This is something special." Anna's face lit up. "I'm so glad you think so," she said. "I wanted to show her how much she means to me. She's been through so much, and I want her to know how strong she is." Clara, who had been quietly observing from the doorway, walked over and looked at the painting. Tears welled up in her eyes as she took in the image of herself. I don't even know what to say," she said, her voice shaky. "This is incredible, Anna. You've made me feel like I can truly see myself again." The man stood beside Clara, his heart swelling with pride. It was moments like this, moments of deep connection and vulnerability, that reminded him of what truly mattered. It wasn't the accolades or the recognition. It was the love and the support they gave one another. They were a family now, and in their presence, he had found something he had been searching for all his life. The evening passed with laughter and shared memories. The painting became a centerpiece of their home, a daily reminder of the journey they had all been on together. As the days went by, the man found himself spending more and more time with Anna and Clara, helping Anna with her art, and offering support to Clara in any way he could. It wasn't about obligation anymore. It was about love, and that was something he had never experienced in such a pure and meaningful way. One day, as the man walked through the city, he couldn't help but think about how much had changed in such a short amount of time. He had gone from a successful businessman focused solely on his career to someone who had discovered the true meaning of life through the love of others. He no longer cared about the things he once obsessed over. His wealth, his status, none of it mattered anymore. What mattered now were the people in his life, the connections he had made, and the love they shared. The phone call he received that afternoon confirmed this truth. It was from a gallery in the city, offering to display Anna's work in a major exhibition. It was an opportunity that could change everything for her. The man was overwhelmed with joy for her, knowing how hard she had worked to get to this point. But he also knew that, no matter where her art took her, she would always have the love and support of the people who mattered most. He immediately called Anna and Clara, eager to share the news. "I have some exciting news," he said, his voice brimming with excitement. "Anna, your work has been accepted into a major exhibition. This is a huge opportunity for you." There was silence on the other end of the line, followed by Anna's voice, full of disbelief. "Are you serious?" she asked. I don't know what to say." Clara's voice joined in, filled with pride. "I knew this day would come, Anna. I'm so proud of you." The man smiled, feeling a warmth spread through him. "You've earned this, Anna. Your talent, your dedication, it's all paying off. This is just the beginning of something amazing for you." The celebration that followed was quiet but full of meaning. They didn't need grand gestures or expensive gifts. What they needed was each other, and that was enough. The man realized that, in helping Anna find her way, he had found his own purpose. And in Clara's strength and resilience, he had found a deep sense of inspiration. The future was now wide open for them, and they were ready to face it together. As the days passed and Anna's work gained recognition, the bond between them continued to grow stronger. The man had helped them find their footing, but it was their love and determination that had carried them to this point. And for the first time in a long time, he felt at peace, knowing that he had made a real difference in the lives of the people he cared about. As the year progressed, the changes in Anna and Clara's lives became more pronounced, and the man's role in their journey continued to evolve. The success of Anna's art exhibition had opened up new opportunities for her, and she was quickly gaining recognition in the art world. Her paintings, once just a personal escape, were now being showcased in galleries and museums, and she had even started receiving commissions. Her confidence was at an all-time high, and the man couldn't help but feel a deep sense of pride. Watching her grow into the artist she had always dreamed of being filled him with a sense of fulfillment he had never known before. Clara, too, had made strides. Her health was improving steadily, and she had started to take on more responsibilities at work, helping those who, like her, had faced difficult challenges. Her strength, both physical and emotional, was something to be admired. She had come a long way since the days when she had been bedridden, and now she was thriving, not just surviving. The man had never felt more grateful to be part of their lives. But as much as he had given them, they had given him so much more. The lessons he had learned from them about love, about perseverance, and about what it truly means to live had transformed him in ways he couldn't have anticipated. One evening, after a long day of work, the man received a call from Anna. She was excited, but there was a hint of worry in her voice. "Hey," she said, "I need to talk to you about something." The man's heart skipped a beat. "What's going on?" he asked, concern rising in his chest. "It's about the gallery," Anna said. "They want me to do a solo exhibition next month, but I'm not sure if I'm ready. It feels like everything is happening so fast, and I don't want to mess it up." The man took a deep breath, trying to calm his nerves. He knew how much this opportunity meant to Anna, but he also understood her hesitation. "Anna, you've been working so hard for this," he said gently. "You're more than ready. This is the next step in your journey, and I have no doubt that you're going to succeed." Anna was silent for a moment, and the man could almost hear her weighing his words. "But what if I fail?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. The man smiled softly, the warmth in his voice steady. "Failing isn't the worst thing that can happen. Not trying, that's the real failure. And I know you're not going to let fear stop you. You've already come so far, and you have everything it takes to make this happen." Anna's voice trembled slightly as she spoke again. "I'm scared, but I think I'm ready. Thank you for always believing in me." The man felt a wave of pride wash over him. "You've always had it in you, Anna. I'm just here to remind you of that. I'll be with you every step of the way." Over the next few weeks, Anna poured herself into preparing for the exhibition. The man was there to support her, offering encouragement and helping in any way he could. He knew this was a pivotal moment for her, and he wanted to ensure that she felt confident and ready. The night of the exhibition arrived, and the man stood in the back of the gallery, watching as people marveled at Anna's work. The space was filled with art lovers, critics, and even a few of the city's top art collectors. Anna was nervous, but as she moved from group to group, explaining the stories behind her paintings, her confidence grew. She spoke with passion about her journey, about the struggles she had faced and the triumphs she had achieved. The man watched her with pride, knowing that this was the moment she had worked for. It was a dream come true, and she was making it happen. At the end of the night, after the last guest had left, Anna approached the man. "I did it," she said, her voice filled with amazement. "I actually did it." The man smiled, his heart full. "You always had it in you," he said. "I'm so proud of you." Anna hugged him tightly, her emotions finally breaking free. "Thank you for believing in me when I didn't believe in myself," she said, her voice thick with emotion. The man held her close, feeling the weight of the moment. It wasn't just about the exhibition. It was about everything that had led up to this point, the struggles, the triumphs, and the growth they had all experienced together. The man knew that this moment would be one of many for Anna. This exhibition was only the beginning of her journey, and he couldn't wait to see where it would take her. Clara joined them soon after, a proud smile on her face. "You did it, Anna," she said, her voice filled with love. "I knew you could." The three of them stood together in the gallery, looking at Anna's work. In that moment, the man realized that the true reward wasn't in the success or the recognition. It was in the love they had shared and the way they had supported each other through it all. They were a family now, in every sense of the word, and that was more valuable than any achievement. As they left the gallery together, the man felt a deep sense of fulfillment. He had found his place in this world, not through his work or his accomplishments, but through the people he loved and who loved him in return. The future was bright for Anna, for Clara, and for him, and he knew that whatever came next, they would face it together. As the months continued to unfold, Anna's success in the art world only seemed to grow. She had always dreamed of becoming a recognized artist, and now, with each exhibition and every new piece she created, that dream was becoming a reality. The gallery in which her work had recently been displayed had led to even more offers from art collectors and institutions, and her name was beginning to circulate in the circles she had once only imagined being a part of. Yet, despite her newfound recognition, she remained humble, never forgetting the struggles that had brought her to this point. The man watched her with admiration, proud not just of her accomplishments, but of the young woman she had become strong, independent, and full of potential. Clara, too, had continued to thrive. Her health was now fully restored, and she had embraced a new role in the community. As someone who had been through so much herself, Clara now helped others who were facing similar struggles. Whether it was offering advice, providing support, or just lending a listening ear, she had found a sense of purpose that fulfilled her in ways she had never imagined. In many ways, she had become the woman she had always hoped to be, but she was also the pillar that Anna leaned on. The bond between mother and daughter had grown deeper, their love for one another stronger with each passing day. As autumn began to turn into winter, the man found himself reflecting on how much had changed. When he first arrived in Anna and Clara's lives, he had been lost focused solely on his work and achievements. But now, he had a family. They had given him something far more valuable than any business deal or financial success could ever provide. Love, connection, and the reminder of what truly mattered. He had learned from them, and in doing so, he had found a new sense of purpose. One evening, as the chill of winter settled in, the man received a call from Anna. "Hey," she said, her voice sounding slightly uncertain. "I need to talk to you about something." The man's heart immediately picked up pace, concerned by the tone of her voice. "What's going on?" he asked, his concern evident. "It's about the scholarship," Anna said, hesitating. "I've been offered a scholarship to study abroad, and it's an incredible opportunity, but I'm not sure if I should take it. I've never been away from home for so long. I'm scared." The man could hear the uncertainty in her voice, and for a moment, he was quiet, letting her words settle. He knew how much Anna had worked for everything she had achieved, and he knew how hard this decision would be for her. "Anna, I know how much this means to you," he said, his voice calm and reassuring. "But I also know how strong you are. This is a chance for you to grow even more, to push yourself, and reach new heights. I've seen what you're capable of, and I believe in you." Anna was silent for a moment, and the man could almost feel her weighing his words. "I don't want to leave you and Mom," she said quietly. "I'm afraid I'll mess everything up." The man smiled softly, the warmth in his voice steady. "You won't mess anything up, Anna. You're ready for this, and this is your chance to follow your dreams. Clara and I will be here for you, no matter what. You have our support." He paused, allowing his words to sink in. "You don't have to be afraid to take this step. You've already proven you can overcome so much. This is just another part of your journey, and we'll be cheering you on the whole way." Anna sniffled, and the man could hear the emotion in her voice. "Thank you," she said, her voice trembling. "I needed to hear that." The man's heart swelled with pride. "You've always had the strength inside you, Anna. I'm just here to remind you of that." The days leading up to Anna's departure were filled with mixed emotions. There was excitement and joy, but also a sense of sadness, as they all realized how much they would miss each other. The man helped Anna pack her things, and together, they made the final preparations. The night before she was set to leave, the three of them sat together on the porch, watching the stars twinkle above. Clara had made dinner, and they ate together as a family, sharing stories and laughter. There was a sense of finality in the air, but it wasn't the kind of finality that felt heavy. It was the kind that felt like the closing of one chapter and the opening of another. "You're going to do great things, Anna," the man said, his voice filled with pride. "I'm so proud of you." Anna smiled up at him, her eyes bright with emotion. "I couldn't have done this without you," she said softly. "You've been there for me every step of the way, and I'll never forget it." Clara reached over and took both their hands. "We'll always be here for you," she said quietly. "No matter where you go or what you do, you'll always have us." The man nodded, his heart full. He knew this was a turning point, a moment of growth for Anna, and he was proud to be part of her journey. The next morning, as Anna stood with her bags at the door, ready to leave, the man gave her one last hug. "Go and make the most of this opportunity," he said, his voice filled with love and encouragement. "We'll be waiting for you when you come back." As Anna left, stepping out into the world on her own for the first time, the man felt a sense of peace. He knew that this was only the beginning for her, and that whatever came next, she would be ready. And as for him, he knew that his journey with Anna and Clara wasn't over. They were family now, and nothing could change that. As the months passed, the changes in Anna's life became more profound. Her time abroad was shaping her into the person she had always dreamed of becoming. The world was opening up to her, and each new experience she encountered seemed to fuel her passion for art even more. She began to exhibit her work in international galleries, with critics praising the depth of her pieces and the emotional power they held. Still, despite her growing fame, Anna remained humble, always recalling where she came from and the people who had helped her along the way. Meanwhile, back home, Clara and the man continued to support each other in their own ways. Clara's health had fully recovered, and she was now a key figure in her community, leading support groups and sharing her story with others who needed encouragement. She had become a beacon of hope for those facing hardships, much like she had once needed. Her role had grown, not just as a mother to Anna, but as someone who had learned to rise again after the hardest of falls. The man, too, had settled into a new rhythm in life. His business ventures had been successful, but they no longer held the same weight in his heart as they once had. Now, his focus was on giving back, using his resources and skills to support causes he cared about. He worked with local charities, mentored young entrepreneurs, and continued to be a source of guidance for those who needed it. His relationship with Anna and Clara remained the cornerstone of his life. One day, as winter began to settle in, the man received a letter from Anna. He opened it with a sense of anticipation, knowing that it was a letter he had been waiting for. The letter was filled with her excitement about her accomplishments, the new people she had met, and the opportunities that were opening up before her. But as he read on, his eyes caught a line that made his heart skip. "I miss you both so much," she had written. "I've learned so much, but I want to come back home. There's something I've realized while being away, and it's that the most important thing is the people who love you, the ones who were there before the fame and success. I want to come home, share what I've learned, and make a difference there." The man felt a tear slip down his cheek as he read her words. It was a beautiful, bittersweet sentiment. Anna had found her way in the world, but now she was ready to return to her roots, to the place that had shaped her. He knew that this decision was not just about geography. It was about her recognizing the value of the love and support that had helped her get to where she was. He immediately picked up the phone and called Clara. "She's coming home," he said, his voice thick with emotion. Clara, who had been working on a new community project, paused. "What did she say?" she asked, her voice full of warmth and curiosity. "She wants to come back," the man repeated. "She's ready. She's learned everything she needed to, and now she wants to be here with us." Clara smiled, tears in her eyes. "I knew she would," she said softly. "She's always been so strong, and now she's ready to share that strength with us again." When Anna returned home, the reunion was nothing short of magical. She stepped off the plane with a look of determination and love in her eyes, her arms open wide as she embraced the man and Clara. It was the kind of moment that felt like everything had come full circle. The journey of growth, the journey of transformation, had not been about the external success, it had been about the internal growth and understanding that Anna, Clara, and the man had all gone through. As they sat together that night, sharing stories and laughter, the man realized that while Anna's journey had taken her across the world, it had always led her back to them. "I'm home," Anna said, her voice filled with emotion. "And this time, I'm not going anywhere." The man smiled, his heart full. "We're so proud of you, Anna," he said softly, "and we've always known you were meant for greatness. But the most important thing is that you know that no matter where you go, you have a family here." Clara nodded, a proud, loving smile on her face. "You've come so far, but this is where you belong, Anna. This is where your heart is." The next few weeks were filled with a sense of renewal. Anna began to work on new pieces, drawing inspiration from her experiences abroad. But now, with a focus on the people and the place that had shaped her, she hosted local workshops, teaching young artists about the importance of perseverance, passion, and self-expression. Clara continued to lead her community projects, and the man, proud of all they had achieved, spent his time working on various initiatives that supported young people in their pursuit of dreams. The three of them found themselves stronger than ever, bonded not just by love, but by the journey they had all taken together. As the seasons changed once again, the man reflected on how far they had all come. He had found something more valuable than wealth, more lasting than success. He had found family, he had found purpose, and he had found a love that had transformed his life completely. He knew that the journey wasn't over yet, but as he sat there with Anna and Clara, he realized that no matter what the future held, they would face it together stronger, more united, and more determined than ever. As the new year began, Anna, Clara, and the man found themselves settling into a routine that felt both familiar and new. Anna's return had brought a renewed sense of energy to their home, and together they had worked hard to rebuild the sense of unity and purpose that had always been at the core of their bond. Anna's art continued to thrive, her workshops gaining more attention and drawing in young, aspiring artists who were eager to learn from someone with first-hand experience of overcoming obstacles. Her story had inspired many, and as she helped others find their own paths, she began to feel a deeper sense of fulfillment. She no longer saw success as just about recognition or the number of exhibitions, but as something much more meaningful, the ability to give back and help others grow. Clara, too, had found a new rhythm in her life. Her work in the community had expanded, and she had become a well-known figure in local circles for her work supporting people in recovery. She had embraced this role with passion, understanding that her own experiences made her uniquely qualified to guide others through their struggles. She continued to heal from the past, finding peace in helping others while still nurturing the bond with Anna and the man. The man, too, was busier than ever. He had redefined what success meant to him, and much of his energy now went into supporting causes he believed in. His investments were no longer just about financial returns, but about ensuring that young people had access to opportunities and guidance. He worked alongside Clara to support her community outreach, and had even started a foundation to provide scholarships for young artists, an initiative that felt like the perfect way to pay forward the support he had once received. One afternoon, as the trio sat in the living room, Anna looked up from her sketchbook and said, "I've been thinking a lot about what comes next. I know I've come so far, but I feel like there's still so much I want to do, so much I can give, and I think it's time for me to take a big step." The man, sitting across from her, looked up, his eyes warm. "What kind of step are you thinking about?" he asked. Clara, who had been listening quietly, turned her attention to Anna as well. Anna took a deep breath, her gaze thoughtful. "I want to start my own gallery. Not just for my work, but for others. I want to create a space where artists can showcase their work, where people can come together, and where art can truly make a difference. I think this is the next step for me. It's time to give back in a bigger way." Clara smiled, her eyes shining with pride. "I knew you had it in you," she said. "You've always wanted to do more, and now you're ready to take that leap. We're here for you, every step of the way." The man nodded in agreement. "You've always had a vision, Anna. I've seen it in your work, and I've seen it in the way you inspire others. This is the perfect next step for you, and you're not alone in this. We'll help you however we can." The conversation filled the room with a sense of anticipation. Anna had always dreamed of running her own space, but now, with her newfound confidence and support from the people she loved, it felt like the right time. She had already built a network of artists, some of whom had been her mentors, and others she had met through her exhibitions. The idea of creating a space where emerging artists could find support and recognition was something that had always been on her mind. Over the following months, Anna threw herself into her new project. She found a location for the gallery, a beautiful, airy space that she knew would be perfect for showcasing the diverse works of the artists she admired. The man and Clara both played pivotal roles, offering guidance, financial backing, and emotional support. The gallery was more than just a business venture for Anna. It was a mission to create a space where art could serve as a bridge between different communities, a place where people from all walks of life could come together and connect through creativity. The opening night of the gallery was a milestone that felt like the culmination of everything Anna had worked for. The event was attended by artists, critics, and art lovers, all gathered to witness the birth of a new cultural space. The man stood by Anna's side as she greeted the guests, his pride in her evident in every smile. Clara was there too, offering her support and joyfully watching her daughter as she stood confidently in front of the gallery, ready to take on the world. "You did it," the man said quietly to Anna, his voice filled with emotion. "You've created something beautiful, something that will last. This is just the beginning for you." Anna smiled up at him, her heart full. "I couldn't have done it without you," she said softly. "You both have been with me every step of the way, and I'll never forget that." As the night progressed, the gallery buzzed with conversation and admiration for Anna's work and the vision she had brought to life. It wasn't just a success for her, it was a testament to everything she had learned, the journey she had taken, and the love and support that had carried her through. The man looked around at the gallery filled with people, each one captivated by the art on the walls. It was more than just a space to view art. It was a place to connect, to find meaning, and to be inspired. And as he stood there, watching Anna, Clara, and the guests share in this moment, he knew that their family had created something truly special, a legacy of love, art, and community that would continue to grow for years to come. As the months passed, Anna's gallery continued to grow in both prominence and influence. It became a hub for emerging artists, a place where creativity flourished and new ideas were born. Anna's dream had become a reality, but she never forgot the journey that had led her here, or the people who had helped her get to this point. The man, Clara, and Anna had built something far more than just a gallery. They had created a community. The support that had surrounded them was evident in every aspect of the gallery. Artists found a space to express themselves freely, and patrons came to not only appreciate the art but to be part of something larger, a movement driven by love, perseverance, and connection. The gallery was no longer just a physical space. It was a symbol of what could be achieved when people worked together with passion and purpose. Anna, however, was not one to rest on her laurels. She continued to push herself, constantly seeking new ways to elevate the work of the artists she supported, and using her growing platform to advocate for underrepresented voices in the art world. Her commitment to making art accessible to everyone, regardless of background or status, remained at the core of her mission. She organized community outreach programs, bringing art into schools and neighborhoods where it had once been out of reach. Through her efforts, she was slowly transforming the cultural landscape of the city. One evening, after a particularly successful exhibition opening, Anna and the man sat together in the gallery's back office, reflecting on the incredible journey they had both been on. "I never imagined this would be my life," Anna said, her voice quiet but full of awe. I always dreamed of doing this, but now that it's happening, it feels surreal." The man smiled, his eyes filled with pride. "You've earned every bit of it, Anna. Your hard work, your vision, it's all coming to fruition." Anna looked at him, a soft smile tugging at her lips. "I couldn't have done it without you. You've been my mentor, my guide, and my biggest supporter. I can't thank you enough for believing in me when I didn't believe in myself." The man reached over, placing a hand on her shoulder. "You've always had the strength inside you, Anna. I was just here to help you see it. You did the hard part." Clara walked in then, a warm smile on her face as she took a seat beside them. "What's all this talk about hard work and strength?" she asked teasingly. "We're all a part of this journey, and I'm proud of the both of you." The man chuckled, his heart full. "I think we all played a role in getting here," he said. "But seeing Anna now, with everything she's accomplished, it's just incredible." Clara's smile softened as she looked at her daughter. "You've become everything I hoped for and more," she said, her voice filled with love. Anna's eyes shimmered with emotion. "I couldn't have done it without the two of you," she said, her voice thick with gratitude. "You're both my foundation. You taught me how to believe in myself, how to keep going even when it seemed impossible. You showed me what true strength is." The three of them sat in silence for a moment, allowing the weight of the moment to sink in. It was a rare pause, a chance to reflect on how far they had come. The journey hadn't been easy, but it had been worth it. Every challenge, every setback, had only made them stronger. And now, as Anna's dreams were becoming reality, they knew that their bond was the foundation upon which everything had been built. Clara spoke again, her voice soft but filled with resolve. "Anna, I've been thinking about something," she said. "You've created something so beautiful with this gallery. But I think it's time we take it a step further." Anna looked at her curiously. "What do you mean?" Clara smiled, a twinkle in her eye. "I think it's time to expand. Let's bring more artists in, give them a bigger platform, and continue to build this community. The world needs more spaces like this, places where people can find their voice, share their stories, and be seen." Anna's eyes widened as she absorbed her mother's words. "You're right," she said slowly. "It's time. We've done so much already, but we can do more. We can make an even bigger impact." The man nodded in agreement. "I think this is the perfect time for it. The foundation is here. We've built a space where people can truly thrive. Now it's time to open the doors wider and let even more people in." Over the following months, they began to work on expanding the gallery. They reached out to more artists, hosted larger exhibitions, and even started to offer workshops for young people interested in pursuing art. The expansion wasn't just about increasing the gallery's footprint, it was about deepening the impact it had on the community. Anna, Clara, and the man worked tirelessly to make the gallery a place where art was not only celebrated but used as a tool for change. They partnered with schools, community organizations, and other art spaces to ensure that creativity could flow freely in places it had once been stifled. As they watched the gallery grow and evolve, they couldn't help but feel a sense of pride in everything they had built. What started as a small dream had become something far bigger, something that would continue to inspire generations to come. The future was bright for the gallery, and for Anna, Clara, and the man. They had created something lasting, something that transcended success and fame. It was a legacy of love, perseverance, and the belief that art could change the world. And as they stood together, watching the gallery doors open to welcome the next wave of artists and visitors, they knew that they had created something that would last long after they were gone. As the gallery expanded, so did Anna's vision for what it could become. She had always dreamed of creating a space that went beyond just showcasing art. It was about building a community, about bringing people together through creativity, and giving artists the platform they needed to share their voices with the world. The success of the gallery had surpassed her expectations, but Anna knew that there was still so much more to be done. With Clara by her side, and the unwavering support of the man, Anna began planning the next phase of the gallery's growth. They reached out to local schools, community groups, and other cultural organizations, aiming to foster even deeper connections with the city's diverse population. They knew that art could serve as a bridge between different communities, and they were determined to make sure it was accessible to everyone, regardless of their background or circumstances. As winter turned into spring, the gallery became a focal point for creative minds in the area. Anna organized workshops for young artists, helping them develop their craft and understand the power of their voices. Many of these young artists had never thought of pursuing their work professionally, but with Anna's guidance, they began to see that their stories mattered, that their art could be something more than just a hobby. One afternoon, as Anna was preparing for the gallery's next big event, the man stopped by to check in on how things were going. He had been so proud of what they had accomplished, but now he saw that Anna was working tirelessly to ensure that the gallery's next step would be its most impactful yet. He could see that she was carrying a lot on her shoulders. "You're doing incredible things here, Anna," he said as he walked into the gallery, his voice full of admiration. Anna looked up, smiling, but there was a hint of exhaustion in her eyes. "Thank you," she said, her tone soft. "It's just a lot to manage. I want to keep making a difference, but it feels like there's so much to do and so little time." The man walked over and placed a hand on her shoulder. "I know it feels overwhelming sometimes, but you've built something that's going to last. This is just the beginning, and you have the strength to carry it even further. You're already changing lives." Anna took a deep breath, looking around at the gallery. "I just want to make sure I'm doing it right," she said quietly. "I want to be sure that the people who walk through these doors feel seen, heard, and valued. I want them to know that art is for everyone, no matter who they are or where they come from." The man smiled, knowing how much Anna cared about her mission. "You're already doing that. You're creating a space where people can express themselves freely, where they can find belonging. That's something special." As the months passed, Anna's confidence grew. She started to trust herself more and more, understanding that the work she was doing was not just important to her, but to the entire community. The gallery was no longer just a business. It had become a vital part of the cultural fabric of the city. People from all walks of life came to experience the art, to share their stories, and to find inspiration. As the spring event approached, excitement began to build. This would be Anna's largest exhibition to date, featuring dozens of artists who had never had the opportunity to showcase their work on such a scale. For many of these artists, this was a dream come true. and Anna was honored to be part of making it happen. On the night of the event, the gallery was buzzing with energy. Artists, art lovers, and local community members filled the space, admiring the work that adorned the walls. The room was alive with conversation, laughter, and the unmistakable buzz of people connecting with one another through art. Anna stood at the center of it all, greeting guests and taking in the incredible display of talent that had come to life. As she looked around at the artists whose work she had helped bring to the forefront, Anna felt a sense of pride and accomplishment. This was the impact she had always dreamed of, creating a platform for others to share their voices and be recognized for their unique perspectives. The man stood nearby, watching Anna with a smile on his face. He could see the joy in her eyes, the fulfillment that came from knowing she had created something meaningful. "This is incredible," he said to Clara, who had joined him at the event. "I've never seen Anna so happy. She's really made something special here." Clara nodded, her eyes glistening with pride. "She's always had this vision, and now she's making it happen. I couldn't be prouder of her." The night wore on, and the event was a resounding success. As the last guests left the gallery, Anna stood with the man and Clara, taking a moment to soak it all in. "I can't believe how far we've come," she said, her voice filled with awe. "This started as just an idea, a dream I had, and now it's real. It's everything I've ever wanted, and more." The man smiled, his heart full. "You've created something beautiful here, Anna, and I have no doubt that you're going to continue making a difference for a long time." Anna looked around at the gallery, the walls lined with the work of countless talented individuals. She felt a deep sense of gratitude in her heart. "I couldn't have done it without the two of you," she said. "You've always believed in me, and you've been there every step of the way." Clara placed a hand on Anna's shoulder, her voice filled with love. "We've always known you were capable of great things, and now the world can see it, too." The three of them stood in the gallery together, reflecting on the journey they had taken, and the journey that was still ahead. There was so much more to be done, so many more lives to touch, and Anna was ready. With the support of the man and Clara, she knew that the future was bright, and she was more determined than ever to make a lasting impact with her art and her heart. As the year continued, the gallery became an even more integral part of the community, with Anna at the helm, guiding it with the same passion and determination that had driven her from the very beginning. The success of the previous events had only solidified her belief in the power of art to bring people together and create change. Now, as the gallery expanded and more artists joined the movement she had started, Anna found herself balancing her time between her own art, managing the gallery, and supporting the artists whose work she believed in so deeply. The gallery was no longer just a business venture, it had become a thriving cultural center, a place where people could experience not only art but the stories behind it. Clara, always by Anna's side, had also continued to thrive. Her work in the community had expanded, and she had begun to collaborate with local mental health organizations, offering her story as a source of inspiration for others. She had found new purpose in sharing her experiences and in guiding people who were struggling with their own battles. The man, ever supportive, was working tirelessly behind the scenes, helping to manage the financial side of the gallery and continuing to invest in other ventures that aligned with the values he had come to hold dear. He spent his time mentoring young entrepreneurs and providing opportunities for those who were just starting out. As Anna's business and personal growth flourished, so did the relationships she had cultivated with those around her. One afternoon, as the gallery prepared for yet another exciting exhibition, Anna sat down with Clara and the man to discuss the next steps. "I've been thinking," Anna said, her voice steady but filled with a quiet intensity. "I think it's time we start taking the gallery to a bigger stage, expand beyond just local artists and find ways to take this to the international level. I've had offers to show our artists at global exhibitions, but it's going to require a lot of effort, and I can't do it alone." Clara, as always, nodded with understanding, her eyes filled with pride. "You've built this from the ground up, Anna, and now you're ready to take it to the next level. We'll be here to support you, no matter what it takes." The man smiled, his confidence in Anna unwavering. "You've proven time and time again that you have what it takes to make this work. You're a leader now, and the world needs to see the work you've cultivated here. I'll help you get there." Anna's heart swelled with gratitude. She had come a long way from the girl who had once doubted herself. "Thank you both," she said quietly. This means everything to me. I know it won't be easy, but I'm ready. We're ready." Over the next few months, Anna's determination and vision became even clearer. The gallery underwent a transformation, expanding its reach to include international collaborations, digital exhibitions, and even partnerships with art institutions from around the world. The community that had supported her from the beginning was now experiencing the fruits of their collective effort. The artists who had once worked under Anna's mentorship were now able to showcase their talents to a global audience, and the gallery's message of inclusivity and representation spread farther than Anna had ever dreamed. But as the expansion unfolded, Anna found herself facing new challenges. Managing a larger operation meant more responsibility, more decision-making, and more pressure to maintain the level of excellence she had set from the start. She began to feel the weight of her new role, and for the first time in a long while, she began to doubt herself again. It was late one night, after a particularly exhausting day of meetings and preparations, that she sat in her office, staring at the walls of the gallery. The once familiar space now felt daunting, filled with the expectations of the world she had stepped into. She was interrupted by a soft knock on the door. The man stepped inside, his presence comforting, as always. "I thought I might find you here," he said, his voice gentle. Anna looked up, her eyes tired. "I don't know if I'm cut out for this," she confessed, her voice shaking slightly. "This all feels so much bigger than me now, and I'm scared I'll fail. I don't know how to keep up with all of this." The man walked over to her, sitting down beside her. "Anna, look at what you've already built. You've created something incredible, something that's changing lives. The pressure is a part of the journey, but it doesn't mean you're not ready. You've been ready all along." Anna shook her head, unsure. "But what if I'm not enough? What if I can't handle it all?" The man smiled softly. "You are enough, Anna. You've already proven that. This is your moment to trust yourself. You've overcome so much to get here, and you have us by your side. You're never alone in this." Clara entered the room then, walking over to Anna and placing a hand on her shoulder. "We've all been through so much together," she said, her voice steady. "And now you're taking the next step, but that doesn't mean you have to do it alone. We're a family, Anna. We've got this." Anna looked at them both, the weight of their support washing over her. She knew, in that moment, that the journey ahead would be challenging, but it was also filled with immense possibilities. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. "I couldn't do this without you both." And as the months passed, Anna continued to rise to the challenges before her. The gallery grew into a global institution, and with each new step, Anna remembered the strength she had found in herself and in the people who had always been there for her. The future was uncertain, but it was filled with hope, and with the unwavering love of those who had helped her become the person she was today. As Anna stood in the gallery's main hall, now bustling with energy from the evening's crowd, she couldn't help but marvel at how far they had come. The gallery, once just a small idea in her mind, had become a global beacon for artists, a space where dreams were shared, nurtured, and celebrated. The walls, once bare, were now adorned with the vibrant work of dozens of talented individuals, each piece telling its own story, its own journey. The transformation of her life, from a young girl with dreams to an accomplished curator and artist, was nothing short of miraculous. But the real beauty of it all, she realized, was not just the success or the recognition. It was the relationships, the community that had formed around her. The man, Clara, and the countless artists she had mentored had become her true treasures. As the gallery continued to expand its reach, Anna found herself balancing more responsibilities than ever before. She had become the voice for so many artists, the one who helped others find their platform, just as she had once been given a chance. Despite the constant pressure of managing a growing global brand, Anna never lost sight of the values that had driven her from the beginning: inclusion, inspiration, and the belief that art could change lives. The man, her ever-reliable guide and friend, had remained a constant source of support. He had helped her navigate the complexities of running a large business while ensuring the gallery never lost its soul. Clara, always by her side, had played a key role in keeping the heart of the gallery in place, offering guidance and wisdom gained from her own experiences. Together, they had created something far beyond their individual visions. Now, as the gallery entered its 10th year, Anna felt a deep sense of gratitude for everything they had built, but she also knew that the work wasn't done. She had always wanted to create a lasting legacy not just for herself, but for the community of artists who had trusted her. "It's incredible, isn't it?" Clara asked one evening, joining Anna at the gallery's entrance. The two of them looked out over the crowd, the excitement and pride radiating from everyone. Anna smiled, her heart full. "It is," she said softly, "but I think we're just getting started." The next morning, Anna gathered the team, along with the man and Clara, to discuss what came next. They had already built something extraordinary, but Anna knew it was time to set her sights on even greater goals. "I think it's time for us to give back in an even bigger way," she said, her voice confident. "We've been lucky to have such a strong foundation, but I want to ensure that we're supporting the next generation of artists, those who might not have the same opportunities we've had." Clara nodded in agreement. "We've always believed in opening doors for others," she said. "Now it's time to make those doors wider and more accessible." Anna smiled, knowing that her vision was now fully supported by the people who meant the most to her. Over the next few months, they launched new programs focused on providing mentorships, scholarships, and art supplies to underprivileged young artists. They partnered with schools, community centers, and global organizations to create outreach initiatives that brought art to places where it had previously been absent. It was a way of giving back to the world that had given them so much. But Anna knew that no matter how much the gallery grew, no matter how many artists she helped, it would always be the relationships, the love, the guidance, the belief in one another that made everything truly meaningful. One quiet evening, as the gallery doors closed for the night, Anna found herself standing alone in the main hall, just like she had all those years ago when she first envisioned this space. She ran her fingers along the smooth surface of the walls, her mind full of memories. The journey had been long, filled with highs and lows, but every step had been worth it. As the man walked in, he paused when he saw her, taking in the scene. He knew exactly what she was feeling. "You've come a long way, Anna," he said, his voice filled with admiration. "We all have." Anna smiled at him, her heart full. "I couldn't have done it without you," she said. "You were there when I had nothing. You helped me find my way." The man nodded. "You found your own way, Anna. I just helped you see it. You've always had it in you." Clara joined them then, her arms open, ready to share the warmth of a family bond that had been tested and strengthened over time. "You've done it," she said, her voice filled with pride. "You've built something incredible, and you've done it with love. That's what matters." Anna stood there, surrounded by the people who had helped shape her, the people who had made this dream a reality. As she looked around at the gallery, now a thriving space, home to so many artists and stories, she knew that this was only the beginning. The future was filled with endless possibilities, and with the unwavering support of the man and Clara, there was nothing she couldn't do. The gallery was a testament to the power of art to connect, inspire, and transform. And as she took one last look at the walls that had witnessed so much, Anna smiled, knowing that the legacy she had started would continue to live on long after this moment. It was not just the artwork or the exhibitions that would endure, but the impact they had on the lives of those who had walked through the gallery doors, people whose lives had been touched by the power of belief, community, and the shared love of creativity.